before anything else stirs, before the hum of the world begins again. There is a moment, a quiet hour suspended between the end of dreaming and the beginning of doing. And in that moment, there exists a rare kind of purity, a space untouched by expectation, by deadlines, by names, titles, or roles. This first hour is not just time, it is a doorway, a threshold between who you were yesterday and who you might become today. Most people miss it. They leap from bed into a world already screaming for their attention. They are pulled into screens, into schedules, into the momentum of lives that rarely pause to ask why. But if you linger, just a little, if you give that first hour not to the world but to yourself, you will find something hidden in the hush, something ancient, something vast, a presence that is not apart from you, but is you. This silence is not empty. It is filled with an intelligence far older than thought. In it, the mind is no longer a master barking orders, but a mirror, reflecting the light of awareness itself. To sit in this hour without rushing, to breathe and simply be, is to remember what we often forget, that you are not a machine to be switched on, but a soul unfolding in rhythm with something immeasurable. And it's funny, isn't it? We treat time as a currency to be spent, to be earned, to be saved. But time is not money, it is music. And this first hour, it is the overture, the sacred beginning of the day's composition. If you rush it, you miss the tuning of your own instrument. You miss the chance to listen not just to your thoughts, but to the space between them. That's where the real wisdom lives, not in the noise, but in the pauses. To give yourself the first hour is not to withdraw from life, but to engage it more deeply. It is not selfish, it is devotional. You are saying, before I serve the world, I will remember who I am. Before I offer myself to others, I will meet myself here. In that gesture is great power, the kind of power that does not dominate, but resonates. Like a bell, struck once in stillness, whose echo lasts all day. We must come to understand that this moment is not asking us to perform. It is not demanding movement or productivity. It is inviting intimacy, a kind of sacred reconnection with being itself. And in that space, we begin to see that the world we wake into is not separate from the world within. The two are reflections interwoven, inseparable. What you cultivate in that first hour spills into everything you touch. So let it be still, let it be quiet, light a candle if you must, or sit by a window and watch the way the morning unfolds, itself like a prayer. Breathe, not to calm yourself, but to arrive. Let the silence shape you. Let the slowness undo the hurriedness of yesterday. You are not falling behind. You are remembering the rhythm of the cosmos. And if ever you wonder why this hour matters, why it holds such weight, consider this. All great symphonies begin in silence. And so does the masterpiece that is your life. There is something curious about the way we live our lives. We wake each day and slip so easily into roles: worker, parent, partner, provider, like costumes we wear without question. We scroll through headlines and appointments and expectations as if that is all we are made for. But beneath all the names, beneath all the labels, there remains something far more essential, something unchanging. And if we're quiet enough, especially in that first hour of the day, we can hear it, or rather, we can feel it. You see, you are not the thoughts that rise up unbidden. You are not the anxiety about what's next, or the memory of what went wrong. You are the one noticing all of that. The quiet observer behind the curtain, not judging, not reacting, just aware. And this awareness is not small. It's vast. Like the sky, the clouds pass, the weather changes, but the sky remains. Most of us are so entangled in our identities that we forget we're the ones witnessing them. We become the voice in our heads, believing every story it tells. But the first hour offers a strange and beautiful gift, the chance to watch the mind without being caught in it. In that stillness, you begin to see your own patterns, not as truth, but as movement. Like waves rising and falling, they come and go. And you, the ocean, remain. To reconnect with this inner witness is to remember what it means to truly see, not just the outer world, but your own inner landscape. The fears that grip you, the hopes that drive you, the habitual thoughts that loop endlessly like an old reel of film. When you begin to observe them, rather than follow them, a certain distance forms, not a cold detachment, but a warm clarity. The kind of clarity that says, ah, there you are again, old thought, I see you, but I don't have to become you today. In this space, something miraculous happens. You begin to soften. You stop trying to fix yourself. You stop trying to become someone. You simply allow yourself to be. And from that place untouched, you can move through the world with far more ease, far more grace, because you are no longer driven by the need to prove or please. You've already met yourself, and in doing so, you've remembered that you're not broken, you're just human. And being human is not a problem to solve. It's an experience to witness. This is why the first hour is sacred. Not because of what you do in it, but because of what you don't do. You don't run, you don't numb, you don't perform. You sit, you listen, and you simply return. And every return deepens your understanding that you were never lost to begin with. You just forgot to look behind the noise. And what a relief that is to know that behind every thought, behind every storm of emotion, there is stillness, a home, a quiet eye in the center of the cyclone. That stillness is always available. It's not something to achieve, but something to notice. Something that notices you. 2. So before the world reminds you who you're supposed to be, give yourself the grace to remember who you already are. Not a name, not a task, not a story, but the awareness watching it all arise and dissolve, like waves dancing upon the surface of something infinite. And in that remembering, you no longer chase life, you become part of its unfolding. Have you ever watched the way the morning light filters through the trees, slow and unhurried, as though the sun itself is in no rush to arrive? There's something profoundly wise in that rhythm. The natural world is not in a hurry, and yet it accomplishes everything. The river does not sprint, and still it carves canyons. The seed does not strain to grow, and still it becomes a forest. There is a harmony at work, an unspoken order, a rhythm to all things if only we would take the time to listen. But instead, we wake and run. We move as if time is slipping through our fingers, as if life is a race and our worth is measured in steps. We rush into the day disconnected, not only from ourselves but from the very rhythm that sustains everything. That's the tragedy of modern life. We've mistaken motion for meaning, but meaning doesn't come from speed. It comes from alignment. This is why the first hour matters so deeply. It is your tuning fork, a time to harmonize your inner being with the greater movement of existence. Not by doing more, but by pausing, by listening to that quiet music beneath all things. That rhythm is always there. It's in your breath, in the slow rising and falling of your chest. It's in your heartbeat, in the pulse behind your temples. It's in the silence between thoughts. And it is from this rhythm that all right action flows. You are not separate from the universe. You are not some rogue accident navigating a cold, indifferent world. You are life itself, self-aware, briefly individualized, but utterly woven into the great unfolding. And like anything natural, your being thrives in alignment with the deeper currents, not against them. To begin your day from stillness is to step into that current with awareness. It's like catching the right wind in your sail. You're no longer struggling, forcing, or pushing against what is. You begin to act not from resistance, but from resonance. That changes everything. The decisions you make feel lighter. The words you speak carry more weight, not because they're loud, but because they're true. Even your presence feels different, less like a force, and more like a flow. And yet, so often, we look outward for direction. We mimic, we compare, we copy the rhythm of others. But your life has its own tempo, your soul, its own key. And only by listening inward can you find it. That's what the first hour offers, not answers from the outside, but a deeper question rising from within. What is true for me today? Not yesterday, not in theory, but in this moment, in this breath. What feels aligned? It may look like rest. It may look like fierce movement, but you'll know it when you feel it because it won't require force. That's how nature works. That's how the stars move. That's how the heart beats. Effortless precision. So give yourself that first hour, not because it's part of a plan, but because it's an invitation to stop marching and start listening, to stop reacting and start aligning. When you do, you'll find that life no longer feels like something you must conquer. It feels like something you can trust, and from that trust, a deeper confidence emerges. Not the kind that shouts over the noise, but the kind that stands silent and still because it already knows it belongs. And when you begin your day in belonging, in rhythm, the rest of the day becomes an extension of that grace. So breathe, be still, tune yourself not to the ticking of the clock, but to the rhythm of the cosmos, and let the day unfold from there like a leaf floating downstream. Move not by effort, but by the current that carries all things home. There is something exquisite about realizing that you are not here merely to survive the day. You are not here just to check boxes, meet deadlines, or play your part in someone else's script. You are here as a creator, whether you know it or not. Not a creator in the grandiose sense, perhaps, but in the subtle, quiet way that every thought you think, every emotion you tend, every breath you take shapes the unfolding of your reality, and it all begins in that first hour. When you give the opening moment of the day to yourself, something shifts. You stop bracing against life and begin to participate in it. You begin to see that you are not at the mercy of the world's tempo. You are capable of setting your own. That power doesn't come from force, but from awareness. From knowing the ground you're standing on before the day sweeps you away. The first hour isn't about isolation. It's not about hiding from the world. It's about preparing yourself to engage with it more truthfully, more soulfully. And when you do that, when you begin from presence rather than pressure, you step into the day not as a passenger, but as a conductor in the great symphony of existence. You move not to be seen, but because the music within you asks to be expressed. We often forget how creative our attention is. Wherever we place it, life seems to bloom. When it's scattered, everything feels fragmented. When it's anchored in presence, even the most ordinary moment shines. That's what this hour offers you. A return to your own creative authority. A quiet remembering that you are the brush, the canvas, and the hand. And the beauty is you don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to optimize your morning or structure it like a machine. Just show up. Sit in silence. Breathe. Let the thoughts come and go. Let your spirit stretch after the long night. And ask not with words, but with attention. What wants to move through me today? You see, you are not separate from the day ahead. It isn't some battlefield you're about to enter. It's a dance you've been invited to join. And the more you listen before you leap, the more elegantly you move. The more you pause, the more precisely you play your part. From this space, even challenges feel different. They're no longer threats to your peace. They're movements in the music, crescendos, shifts in key, moments of tension that only deepen the release. And when you respond to them from a grounded place, you realize they're not working against you. They're sculpting you, sharpening your tone, deepening your rhythm. There's a humility that comes with this too, a kind of reverence for the mystery you're inside of, because once you've spent a quiet hour with your own presence, it becomes harder to take things personally. You begin to see yourself not as the center of the story, but as a note in a vast melody, necessary, beautiful, but part of something far greater. And yet, that doesn't make you small. It makes you sacred. So when you rise each day and gift yourself that first hour, you're not just preparing for life. You are attuning to it. You are stepping forward not as a reaction, but as a response. And in doing so, you become a channel through which the quiet order of the universe begins to take shape, not in grand gestures, but in the smallest things. The way you speak, the way you listen, the way you simply are. And maybe, just maybe, that's all life ever wanted from you. Not perfection, not control, but participation. Not noise, but harmony. Because once you realize you are part of the music, you can't help but move with grace.